All right. So any questions from the previous couple weeks?
No, the walking has been great. Like I said, we haven't been on like crazy amount of outdoor walks, but yeah, he's been good. The only thing we're still working on is just like the territorial issues at home. Like even so, we had an electrician come and work on our house for a couple days. He was here, and then when he comes home, he can even like tell that someone was in the house, and he runs around the house like goes crazy,
around the house goes
barking, like. And, you know, whenever we get something delivered from Amazon, he's going crazy at the door still.
Sure. Did I send you the videos?
The towel thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been doing that, but he still seems to get, like, really territorial.
Yeah, so the territorialness is instinct.
Okay.
Okay, so you're not going to kill instinct.
Yeah.
But you can dissuade it.
Okay.
Right? So when it comes to the towel correction, or the bunk or whatever, the biggest thing that I see, and it's a towel, right? Like dogs bite each other.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously it's not the same, but it's more so like the, especially when you're throwing it as a projectile, like dogs usually go tell us this, is the intensity of the correction.
Okay.
Right? Because since it's you actively correcting the dog, people have that inhibition, right? As opposed to the remote collar, there is no connection.
Yeah.
It's just, you just turn the number and you press a button and it does its job, right? So if you're correcting them for, like, let's say Amazon, and you're able to stop the behavior in that moment, but then Amazon comes again and he goes back to it, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yes. Is when you're doing the correction, are you saying anything?
No.
No. Okay, so you're just correcting flat out.
Yeah.
Perfect. How many times would you?
Oh, you're not?
Like he did it the other day. I opened the blinds. I was like, stop, and I hit him with the thing.
Oh.
And then what happened?
He stopped, looked at me, and then I walked to the kitchen. And he went barking.
Okay, so you left it unfinished.
Oh, is that? Oh, but he stopped barking. Is that not finished yet?
Correct.
Oh.
Because we need him to move away or retreat. That's how you know you've got across. Okay. So like, let's say with reactivity, if I correct the dog with a prong collar and they're lunging and barking, you'll see them backpedal, and they'll go again, and then boom, and then they'll backpedal, and they're like, okay, crap, and they completely disengage, right? Similar if you're doing the bonker, is if he goes to the, and you can also correct, by the way, even the thought. So if he hears like the gate open, and he perks up, boom.
Yeah.
That's actually when it's the most.
He does that.
Oh, okay. So get it before.
Yes, that's actually when it's the most effective, especially if you overdo it.
Okay.
Okay, so.
With the bunker thing, so.
Correct.
Okay.
So what I mean by overdo it is overcorrect.
Uh-huh.
Because then you say, shit, like even the tiniest thought of like reactivity and this firm correction, right? Is it doesn't make it worthwhile to go to the next step.
Okay.
But for a dog, because dog logic is not the same as human logic, for him, it may be rewarding enough for him to be reactive and take the hit. Okay? So did I tell you the garbage eater story? So I had actually Australian Shepherd. Yeah. This couple, e-collar trained their dogs. And their dog kept digging in the garbage. And they did 127 continuous, which is the harshest, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, Jesse, we keep 127 continuous and the dog keeps going in the garbage. They're like, how? And I was like, because it's rewarding enough. But also they were correcting as he was in the act.
Oh, okay.
So he was also able to do it, right? So I told them, it's worth the 127 continuous to dig in the garbage. So you have to 127 continuous for even looking at the garbage. That's how he broke the behavior.
Oh, okay. So you gotta get it before.
Right. Every dog is different. Some dogs you can correct them right in the act, and it'll be effective. Yeah. But if you feel like you're correcting, and the other thing is when we correct, because he said stop, he corrected, he stopped barking, you walked away, he started barking, right?
Yeah.
Is that the conversation was not finished.
Okay.
So when I correct, the dogs leave the situation.
Okay.
Okay. So if I go bonk, and he's like, shit. Bonk again. He's like, shit. And bonk again. He's like, fine. And he runs off. And then I walk away. And as I'm walking away, he's like, oh.
Oh, so you wait there. Cause I bumped him to open the blinds, and then because he sees a lot of people in the street, and he stopped, looked at me, got down. I was like, cool, he's done. So I was like, I gotta go make this bagel. He like got back up there and went crazy again.
Yes, right? Because, and that's what I was just saying right there, is when you walk away, he's like, oh, okay, cool. Back at it, right?
Yeah.
Is for him, he has to keep trying it and keep being corrected within that context to learn like, oh shit, like you really mean business. Like you really don't want me barking out the window, right? So it's either not following through completely or the intensity isn't there, or for him, it's worth it. So now we got to go with it sooner, right? So let's say I even just walk to the blinds, then I don't open, and he goes there, then I don't open them. Boom.
Yeah, he does that.
Yeah, he does do
that.
Yeah, so you're trying to teach him like, dude, if you come anywhere near these blinds, open or closed, or even look at it, correction. Okay. Now, it's technically his job, right? But you can disagree with it, okay? And dogs will never stop triggering. Like, let's say someone knocks on the door, and we address that. People always ask, like, when is the dog going to stop? I go, they're not. Like, what do you mean they're not? I'm like, yeah, because they don't know who's behind the door. And if you do, you know it's Amazon, FedEx, friend, mom, dad, whatever. Yeah. Dog doesn't. The dog's just doing their job, but we want to be able to control it, right? Now, in your case, it's a little bit different, because it's just a flat rule of like, hey, we don't care who's walking outside the front window, like, because it has nothing to do with us. You just have to be consistent, okay? And if you're going to correct them, because again, the other part of it could be just intensity. And that's just how people send me the video and I'll review it, and I'll let you know, because I can watch it and tell that, yeah, that was pretty solid. Okay. That means your dog is tough, and you're going to have to go firmer earlier. Okay. The other option is a prong the tab. A tab is a short leash. It's like a half foot to a foot long leash, and you just put on the prong collar, so you can correct the dog with the tab instead of having a leash dragging all around. And every time he's doing something, you just correct him with it, and so eventually you can break the behavior. But don't be discouraged if he's seemingly stubborn. Okay, just report back to me, and then I'll kind of coach you along. But usually the main things are usually just intensity, or like not following through completely.
Well, that's a good indoor thing for us to work on the next couple weeks.
Yeah. What about when he comes home? Like when he comes home from here, he starts sniffing the home because he knows somebody's in the home, and he goes up and down the stairs and barks.
Correct.
But why does he do that?
Because he knows someone. I mean, it's like, I mean, imagine you if you came home and you smelled different cologne or perfume, you'd be like, where was this, right?
Yeah.
So because it's out the norm.
But see, your mom's dog doesn't do that.
No, he doesn't do that.
Yeah. Well, he's a different personality type.
Yeah.
Right. Some people can be more suspicious, whereas others are like, who cares?
Yeah.
Right. Same thing for dogs. But we're not that different, to be honest with you.
I guess you're right.
You know, with dogs and
people,
people, there's some dogs that are more suspicious, and there's people that are suspicious. They don't trust as much. There's some people that are dogs that are happy-go-lucky, friends with everybody. And there's people like that as well. Right. It's just depends on who you are.
Yeah.
But you can always disagree with it.
He loves other dogs. He's not sure about other people sometimes.
With the smells or?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But how do you disagree with
it?
Like if he comes in, the first thing he does, you smell him and he goes crazy.
So he just
Yeah. Because that's actually part of. So think of territorialness as also suspicion, and they're related, right? So technically, if you leave one unaddressed, he just keeps practicing. The more he practices it, the more he becomes that, right? So barking out the window, and these are examples. Maybe growling when people come in, this sniffing thing, right? A lot of that's just suspicious behavior. So if you keep correcting all that stuff, you're like, hey, like there's no reason to be suspicious. Okay? Now it won't kill security. Meaning if someone like broke the window, he would still trigger. Because everything you're correcting them for is a context. Barking out the front window at people, walking across the sidewalk.
Doorbell, whatever.
Doorbell, yeah. Sense, because it was the electrician, blah, blah, blah. Because you know there is nothing to worry about. Right? So he learns, okay, when I come home there's a scent, no big deal. Someone walking across the street, no big deal. Hear the window break, big deal, because we've never covered this before. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, question, this is probably a dumb question, because every noise you make, if she's upstairs and I go knock on the door, or just even like open something downstairs, he gets crazy. It's a suspicious behavior. But instinctually, are all dogs like that would drive me as a human being crazy. That no matter every single noise that's made, I'm reacting to. Is that how dogs are for every single type of noise?
No, it's just your dog.
Oh.
Yeah. But it's not uncommon.
It's just like it's crazy.
It's overstimulation
Uh-huh.
and suspicion.
Got it.
Right? So you have a dog that's kind of up here in energy, but then suspicion as well. So that feels into that.
Got it.
Right? So that's where I take a balance of exercise, discipline, but also like, we don't need this. Right? And just like with me growing up, I was given consequence for the same behavior several times before I ultimately stopped, right? And I think it's interesting with dogs, people don't kind of see that. They're like, oh yeah, the dog keeps doing it. I'm like, yeah, but you gotta keep correcting you for the learning lesson. Like I just got a ticket the other day for turning on a red light. And there's a big old sign that says no turning between 7 and 7. And I was like, wow. And then I got an email, hey, it was $100. And I'm like, man.
Yeah.
So I just learned again, right? So that's just the way of the world. The good thing is, it all comes, well, good and bad. It's based upon consistency. My pit, my Chihuahua, I correct to this day. It's just super infrequent, super infrequent. You know, but you know, the first year, 2 years of their life was a lot of corrections. You know.
So it takes a long time.
Yes, right? Because like you're dealing with a toddler, it's not a long time and a long time.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is, if I do a very firm correction, I may not see the behavior for 6 months, and then it pops its head up, and I firmly correct again, and then 6 months later it pops up again. So it's not so much that you're always like, oh my God, Russ, like stop it, right? It's like you get the point across, you deter the behavior for a while.
And then you just be consistent.
Correct.
Got it.
Because I think people get complacent when they're like, oh, it's been so long.
Yeah.
And then they forget, you know, and then the dog does it one day, and they're like, oh, it didn't work. I'm like, no, you have to just correct it.
Reinforce. It's like a teenager or something.
Absolutely. So he's not doing anything bad. He's not anything out of the ordinary. You know, like.
Just a suspicious guy, I guess.
Yeah.
That would just drive me crazy looking like that.
Well, it's like with us here. You know, when you first brought him, he was a little bit vocal, but now he's getting like maybe once or twice a day we get to the park. You know. So it just gets better over time.
Yeah, because he's a pretty vocal guy normally, so at least it's like he's learning.
Yeah, but it's because, you know, we're consistent.
Yeah.
Whenever we hear barks, we're getting up and walking over and correcting. You got to call, you can correct, right?
Yeah.
So he's learned here, oh crap, like I get very few leniencies.
Yeah.
So he's starting to fall into that line. The other thing you have to think about is our relationship with Russ is like a work relationship, right? He's here, we discipline him, we exercise him, we try him, blah, 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 right? Is with you guys, you have a balance of companionship versus authority. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And
or you guys are just authority, pretty much.
Exactly. Right. Like we don't need him to like us. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like our job is to send him home tired and like exercise and all that stuff, right? But we don't sit here coddling or cuddling dogs all day and stuff like that. We do our job. So then the dog's like, all right, cool. Like, yeah, I guess you're just the boss. Right? Whereas with you
It's
guys,
just like going to work.
yeah,
Going
it's
to
just
school.
it's the companionship. You know, so always looking at that relationship. I understand people also get dogs for companionship, but dogs don't need it, right? It's not something that they thrive on or anything like that. I'm not saying I'm against it, but they don't need it. If you let Russ out, at some point, primal instincts kick in. And he's like, I'm gonna have to start hunting for squirrels and birds and stuff like that. If he's not fixed, he's gonna think like I have to replicate, you know? And having dogs in our homes has really kind of shifted the way we perceive them. And a good video to watch is on YouTube. I think it's like wild dogs or feral dogs, or dogs fight over dog and heat. Try looking that up. And it just kind of shows you like, wow, like dogs are animals.
You love to watch those kind of videos.
I do love
It's brutal. Like there's a dog that's just bleeding profusely because they get in a fight over the female, and it gets pretty rough, right? But it's a good video to watch.
It's just
like,
their
you know, like,
world.
oh,
Yeah.
people forget about that because we live with them,
Right.
you know, so they don't get to show us that side of them really unless you're seeing within that kind of context.
Got it.
So, any other questions?
No, yeah, we'll work on that stuff.
Sure.
We'll just be consistent.
And yeah, if
just keep
anything,
at
it's
it.
just like if it doesn't feel like it's registering, and it is again a roll of towel, right?
Yeah.
Then we just have to try to figure out other things to correct
Okay.
them.
And you said we can take a video of what we're doing.
Yep, and just on your cell phone,
Yeah.
send it to me, and I can watch it and tell you if the intensity was good or not.
Okay.
Because I know people tend to feel awkward about it.
Mhm.
But if you watch that, I think the third, the Gary Wilkes one,
Yeah,
sitting
he's
on the ground.
intense about it.
He's
Yeah.
intense.
And then
But
the
he
dog's
gets-
like still sitting in his lap cuddling.
Yeah, but he got and that's like what I would call overcorrection.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand where he's coming from. Because he's
Yeah.
like, I don't want to deal with you that long. So I'm going to just do it now and get out the way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
That's right.
Let me think here. Oh, so what we're going to cover today is we do you've probably seen obviously the place command.
Yeah.
Right? So we'll formally teach it to you guys so you can start layering that in at home.
Has he done it here yet?
I think he has. I think he actually did his first day. Was he here yesterday?
Oh, okay.
Was
Yeah,
I
he
just
was
here
here
yesterday?
Yeah, it was actually, I think, yesterday. Because I remember seeing him on it, because he's like painting. Because he's like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
He's like, I have to sit still.
He was exhausted yesterday, so.
So this exercise has a couple of uses.
Mhm.
One, if you ever go out to like a restaurant or something, you have something to keep him stationary, you can bring him with you.
Mhm.
Two, it's a potential option for when people come over,
Mhm.
so he's not all over people.
Yeah.
Three, it's also a different form of exercise. You know, so we always talk about like with the play group, that's like excited exercise.
Mhm.
Then we do treadmill or the pack walks, which is focused exercise, right?
Mhm.
So do this and keep chill and fall early, blah blah blah.
Mhm.
And then we have this, which is mental exercise.
Mhm.
Okay, so because think of them as a 4-year-old child.
Mhm.
And I remember when I was young in church, and they're like, okay, you have to sit still for the next hour. Don't be loud. Behave yourself, right? And you're little kids, so they kind of fiddling around, like you want to move. So it was like exhausting to kind of have that impulse control that young. Same thing for dogs. Having them sit put or stay put for a bit is mentally exhausting, especially for a guy like him who wants to move.
Yeah.
You're countering him, right? And you're going, no, you can't move.
Mhm.
You have to sit still. And I remember, I think yesterday he got corrected about 2 to 3 times because he kept trying to pop off.
Mhm.
And then finally after the third one he got under and he was just sitting there like, holy crap, like I really just have to sit here
Yeah.
for a bit. So we're gonna cover that today.
Okay.
Who's gonna go first?
Doesn't matter. Sure, I'll go first.
And what's your number currently set at?
15?
Yeah, that's, let's go to 8.
8? Okay.
Yeah, so whenever we teach anything new, we do go down low, or
Okay.
lower. We're gonna grab Russ, and I'll tell you our instruction what to do next.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna start fairly close. We're gonna start about a foot away here. So what we're gonna do first is you're gonna shorten your leash. You're only gonna give Russ actually about maybe 1.5 to 2 feet of leash. Yeah, we're gonna keep it pretty close.
Okay.
We're gonna start tapping first,
Yes.
and then as you're tapping, by the third tap, if we don't see a response from Russ,
Mhm.
we're gonna keep tapping and then pull to guide him towards the bed.
Okay.
Once Russ hops on, we're gonna stop tapping,
Mhm.
see what he does.
Okay.
If he tries to hop off, you're gonna counter him with leash pressure
Uh-huh.
and tap again until he hops on.
Okay.
Then we're gonna wait. He stays put for 2 to 3 seconds. Good. Then you're gonna say break and then move back. Okay. He should hop off. You're gonna walk around, come back, come to a stop. Of course, about a foot away. Repeat that tap 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 process. Third tap, no response. Keep tapping, and then pull him. Okay.
Okay.
We're not gonna say any words right now. We're just teaching him that when he feels the collar, to move to the bed.
Okay.
Okay.
So start
So
closer.
tap, tap, tap. Let's go to 10. Tap, tap, tap. 12. Tap, tap. 15, which is what we're at before, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you're not feeling
10. Hit your vibrate function, see what's on. Pager.
Oh, pager.
Is it vibrating?
No.
Oh, then it's not.
I thought I
it? Like, what? You just standing there taking that?
He's looking at me like, are you
I'm like,
doing
what?
something? Alright, so I'll go back down to 8. Sorry about that. Okay.
Alright, tap. 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 12.
13.
15. 17. He feels like, not feels like, I can see the light lighting
Oh.
comes on.
Oh, he's feeling that?
No, I thought that maybe it died. 20?
Yeah, I did charge it all day today, so.
Okay. 23. 26. Maybe something here. 30. 30. Almost. 33. Okay, now we got good connection. Let's go down to 28.
Okay.
Okay. Let's go down to 20. And let's go down to the 12 now.
Okay.
So this was actually good. This is what I call troubleshooting. Okay. So because of a sticker coat, you might see sometimes you don't get connection.
Yeah.
So we just went up incrementally. And then once we hit like 33, whatever, he felt it, and it was a pretty big jump. Because it was a big jump, I go, oh, now he felt the full power. So we went down. The next one he tapped again, he felt it again, so we went
He's
down
like,
lower.
better get my ass up
He's
here.
literally
He did like, was it Fast and the Furious?
Yeah.
Thing?
Oh my
So-
How did he go to get up here?
Because they did it with the
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they did a little bit of it. So here, with the troubleshooting, if you ever lose contact with him, usually people's first instinct is, oh, let me figure the collar. And I always say, make it happen. Okay, because you always want to think emergency situation. Is, let's say you call Russ or something, he didn't respond, you tap, no response. You want to know how to get that connection
Yeah.
fast. So right here, I was just giving you just kind of a slow way means of doing it. But if I'm in that situation, I'm going up pretty quick. So I'm trying to get that contact as soon as possible before like the dog hits the street or whatever
Yeah.
it is. Okay, so if you're gonna go ahead and say the word break, and you're gonna move backwards.
Break.
Yeah, boy, you're gonna repeat that 4 more times.
Good boy. Okay, so tap it.
Yeah. Right there.
Or just once.
That's fine.
Oh my gosh.
Break.
Break.
What?
3 more. Go down to 8.
Okay. It's like, I'm gonna stay right here. Break.
What?
Yeah, okay. Good.
Break.
And 1 more. Okay. So now what we're gonna do, same concept. I'm gonna have you start approaching from different angles.
Okay.
Now, when you come to a stop, very important that you stop and hold for a second or two. Because what you're gonna see, because he's gonna start anticipating,
Yeah.
is if Russ goes before you tap him, restrain him with the leash first, hold him back a bit, relax, make sure that he's holding on his own, and then tap, so that we know for sure it's the tap that's getting him
Okay.
to go and not the
Yeah.
assumption.
Okay, so
So you're going to release him,
break.
and you're gonna walk around a little bit. And like, you're gonna try from a different side. Break.
Break.
How much do you feed him?
You
Like,
feed it.
I feed him twice a day, in the morning and the evening.
How much total?
Whatever's in the bag. It's,
We feed him the Stella and Chewy raw.
yeah, the raw. So I give him whatever's 30, for 30 pounds, like I try to approximate his. You think he needs to eat more?
No, I can easily less.
I told you I thought he was fat.
Oh,
The other day when I
am
had
I
the
feeding him
vet,
too
I'm
much?
like, man, you're a little sausage, my friend.
Am I feeding him too much?
Yeah, for sure. He's 30 pounds?
He's supposed to be, yeah.
He's supposed to be 30.
Yeah.
But how much does he weigh?
I'm not sure.
We
He
haven't
hasn't-
gone, we haven't gone to the vet yet.
He's going to the vet next week, actually.
Sure, see what their
Vaccine.
measurement, their measurement is.
Okay.
Now, your vet might say he's not fat because the vets don't know crap
Right.
about diet and weight. From experience, I had a dog that was grossly overweight. And the first thing I said to the client, even during the consult, was like, your dog is fat. No, your dog needs to lose some weight. They're like,
I told you I thought he looked a little big.
Well, the bag says like 6 little things a day. And so sometimes I guess I'm a little nice. In the morning I'll give him like 4, and then in the evening I'll give him like 3, 7.
Oh, a little nice in the
A
morning.
little nice in the morning. But that's because he'll lick the bowl like he's still starving. So I'm like, I can't let you starve.
Yeah, well, it's not like, so like,
Break.
Couple more. It's funny because a lot of dogs are good with eating only what they need. That's how I can tell when people are overfeeding, because the dog won't eat everything. They'll eat food. But other dogs will eat everything.
Break.
Right? So if we're supposed to be on 3 and 3,
Yeah.
I would do 3 and 3
Break.
and see what happens. But he's definitely overweight.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah,
I
for
thought
sure.
so.
And you also have to count, are you giving them treats? Are you giving them any biscuits or bones?
Treats in the night. He
Treats
eats a lot
and
of
bully sticks.
bully sticks. He eats a lot, like 2 a night. I'll just give him to him to keep him occupied.
Oh wow, that's a lot. Because you have to account that for his calorie intake.
Well, this skinny bully sticks, but yeah.
But he does eat like, because when he's acting crazy sometimes at night, watching TV, we'll give him a bully stick just to get out of it, like watching TV.
Well, guess what? You got something new you can do, right? Because now you have something to keep him still, exactly. And the other thing is, you can also correct that.
Okay.
Okay, so like,
Break.
people are like, oh, like, well, my dog needs to get the energy out. No, it's because we allow them.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so like it's like me as a kid. Like, you think my mom let me run around screaming? No, I got a sandal across the head.
Yeah. She didn't just like give you a bag of Cheetos and.
Yeah, but it's like or like a brownie that was making it worse.
And then at night, we'll give him, like, to get him into his little bed area, we'll give him treats. So I'm probably feeding him too much.
Oh yeah, because again, if he's getting 4 than 3 patties,
And
which
then
is just for his meal,
Yeah.
right? And then you add everything else on. That's where all that's coming from.
So what do you do about so bully sticks he shouldn't be eating?
Just cut back. So I would go to 3 and 3 in terms of your patties. Drop down to only 1 for your bully stick, and you give the bully stick on his own place. You can have it there.
Yeah.
But then after once he's done, he still has to stay put. And then really hold back on the treats, because his nutrition is coming from the patties.
Got it.
The think of treats and stuff like that is candy.
Yeah.
That's just look at it that way. We have food and we have candy, right? Is if it's like, oh crap, I'm giving him a lot of candy, just like with the kid, and then with an obese kid, right?
Yeah.
And with dogs, being overweight is very detrimental to their health and lifespan. So I would just cut back to 1 bully stick, and then if you want to give them treats, you're gonna have to cut back on the patty. Or
I might just cut back on the patty, because the boxes, if I want to make him lose weight, I can lower the patty consumption.
Yeah, just do that.
So I can just do that for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then keep an eye on his weight.
Yeah. And do you like the freeze-dried raw food for dogs, or do you like something else?
I know my guys eat kibble, but I'm gonna transition them to raw at some point. But they have had like taste of, like, I know what you're talking about, the freeze-dried patty.
Yeah,
Yeah, we tried to do it fully raw. He just wouldn't eat all the stuff.
Yeah.
Because he was probably overfeeding.
Yeah. He stopped eating his kibble, like,
Yeah.
we moved and he stopped eating for like 2 weeks until he,
I think he was like
so
nervous, and then we said, okay, we'll do fully raw, like gizzards, all these different, and we tried, but he wouldn't eat, he'd eat like the raw chicken bone, but
I
that's
like the
it.
chicken wings.
Like the wings, he just wouldn't eat the
Yeah.
other stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So if we get a picky eater, the way I fix it is I put the bowl down for 5 minutes, and if they don't eat, I put it away, they don't eat till the next meal. And I never compensate the meal. If he misses 3 meals, I don't try to put it in 1 meal. It's just whatever you get for that serving.
Got it.
And at some point he learns, like, oh crap, like the food disappears, and in 5 minutes, once or twice a day,
Yeah.
they eat.
Got it.
I-
Yeah, he
I-
likes what he's on now, so I guess we'll just feed him less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feed him less, okay.
Yeah, because he's definitely, especially for a guy his age,
Yeah.
he, because these guys, when they're young, they burn calories like crazy.
Yeah.
He's definitely overweight. Okay?
That's good. I think the other day I was like, you're kind of big, but maybe I'm small. I don't know.
Maybe I'm small. Yeah, like right here, whoa, there's so much cushion right here.
Yeah.
Look at this guy.
Okay. Well, he's gonna lose. So, but he can lose the weight though, right?
Yeah, he just has to eat less.
Okay.
Yeah. Going to break.
Break.
So what we're gonna do here is this going to go to 11, because I think we lost a little bit of contact.
Okay.
And then we're gonna start sending, but more from a 2 to 3 foot distance.
Okay.
Remembering to stop first, wait a couple seconds, and then start the tapping process.
Okay.
Well, now he feels it. Yeah, now a little bit. There we go. Good. We drop into 9. And then break.
Break.
4 more. Good. 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 tap, tap. And then one small step forward, tap, tap, and then a little bit of a pull, tap. There he goes. Yeah, boy. Break.
Break.
Good, 3 more. Very good.
Good boy. Break.
Good, 2 more. Yep, that boy, good. And 1 more.
Break.
There you go, perfect. So that was just 1, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Let's go and swap.
Break. You're good.
So I'm gonna have you pick up where she left off. We're gonna start with the round from a 2 to 3 foot distance. So we're gonna start tapping first, and then if he doesn't respond by that second or third tap, then you're gonna pull your leash towards the bed, okay? Oh, so and if he tries to go on his own,
Oh yeah, pull back.
yeah, pull back. Good.
Okay.
Break, break.
Break. And then walk around.
Yeah, and then we're gonna do 4 more. You're gonna set from like different angles and stuff. Break. And then when you come up, take a pause for like a second or 2, so that he's not like going off your momentum.
Okay.
Because I saw you tap, but I'm not sure if it was a tap
Or he
or a
just
walk.
walk, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Break. Yeah, pull back. Good job. There you go. Break. 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 You have that video game finger, man. You fiddle it.
I do play a lot of video games.
So we're gonna slow it down. We're gonna go. It's funny 'cause I had somebody else before that was like really fast in the car. I was like, man, I was like, yeah, I play a lot of Halo or something. Like that. You're
A
fast.
lot of FIFA.
So we're gonna slow that down to a single tap.
Okay.
Because what's gonna happen is if forever one day we have to bump it and you're popping them that fast,
Yeah.
it's gonna force them. It's gonna make them panic.
Okay.
Okay. So it's gonna just be a singular tap.
Just single tap.
Yeah. And what number are we at?
We were 9.
Let's try 10.
10?
Yeah. So now, what we're gonna do, same process, is we're gonna cue, you're gonna walk around, you're gonna come to a stop,
Okay.
you're gonna wait, right? Then you're gonna, 1 tap at a time. Start tap, I'm sorry, you're gonna say, do you want to say, call this place or go to your bed?
Place is fine.
Place
I've
is
said
fine.
place to him a few times.
Okay, so you're gonna say place, and then you're gonna start the tapping. Okay, so we wanna pause, make sure you hold for that second or 2
Yeah.
before you say anything, because we don't want him to, again, to assume. We wanna make sure that he's going in response to us. Otherwise, I don't know if he's learning the word or if he's just like guessing, playing the guessing game.
Yeah.
Okay, so go to cue break,
So when I come back and I say place, I tap 1 time.
tap, and then you'll continue to tap until he goes forward. But 1 time at a time.
Okay.
Right, so like tap, tap,
Yeah.
tap, as opposed to
Yeah.
the
Supposed to.
And you say place
Yeah,
after
it was
that?
single.
place break tap.
Oh,
Break.
okay.
Break.
Break,
Break.
Let me do a little pull.
Break.
Walk
Break.
backwards.
Break.
Pull, pull, pull. Yeah.
It's like, I'm gonna save your episode. I'm going all that.
See? But see, I don't think that.
Right, because you didn't say place either.
Oh, I didn't take place.
Yeah, so go ahead and
break.
back.
Break. Good.
And wait a moment, wait a moment, wait a moment.
Place.
Yeah, like that, much better. So see how it makes it real obvious?
Mm-hmm. Break.
Good, 4 more.
Place. Place.
Right. And we're just gonna place just the ones.
One time.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
But push this.
But everything else was correct.
Yeah.
Other than the repeat, you were correct. Right.
Break. Break. Place.
Right. Good. Yeah, it was.
Break.
2 more. Yeah, so pull back. Right, good. Wait a moment. Pull back. Same moment.
Place.
He did it right. He said, I'll count it,
But I think that one wasn't.
but you guys were close.
Yeah. Place.
There he goes. Attaboy. Good. So next thing we're gonna do, same concept, but now after you send him, he's gonna stay put and you're gonna try to walk around him.
Okay.
Now as you're walking around him, I don't care if Russ sits, stands, or lays down, or even like looks at you as you're walking around, he just cannot step off.
Okay.
Okay.
So hold the collar. Hold the.
You keep it in slack,
Yeah.
but then if like, let's say you're walking around, he tries to come off, you would stop, you would tap, correct him,
Yeah.
and then you would reset your circle.
Okay.
Okay, so you want to be able to complete 1 full circle without him moving before releasing. Okay?
Okay.
Break.
Break. Break. Break.
Break, break.
Break.
There we go. Good boy.
Place.
Good. Yeah. Right, good. Wait a moment. Now try to walk around. Pause there. Break.
Break.
And move back. There you go. Good boy.
Place.
Good.
Break. Break. Break.
Good.
Place.
Yep. And a little bit of a pull. Yep. 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 There you go. That boy. Good. Relax. Good. Wait a moment. Good. Walk around. And what are you at, 11 still or something?
On your thing.
Yeah. Break.
Move backwards. Yeah.
Break.
There you go. Good. And 2 more.
Okay. Place.
And then a little bit of a pull. Yep. Yep. There you go. Yeah. Oh boy. Good. And walk around.
Break.
Good. Last one.
Place.
Right. Now here, go ahead and just, you're gonna walk over, you can have a seat in your chair there. All right, did you get a chance to tap
Did I?
on that one?
That one? I did.
Did it?
That last one I did.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, because when you said place, he shot.
He
right
shot, yeah,
there,
yeah.
right? So, if he moves fast enough, he can beat the tap. Okay, and that's what we're trying to condition here. So that was a good thing.
Yeah, he was like a jet.
So that for me too, if I would have done that, it would have been the same thing. I would have tapped because he moved very quickly, right? So when we look at, we have 6 basic obedience commands that are meant to be functional. People tend to give the dog the opportunity to beat the punch or like avoid the consequence. So they'll like, you know, place, come on, place, right? And they help the dog along. And I right away, I say it once and I kick you with pressure because I want that kind of response for everything. And it really ties into the recall. Okay, because for recall, that's the, you know, everybody says like the most important command. That command can be life or death, right? If he's running towards the street, you don't want any kind of delay there. You need a complete 180 instantaneously, right? So if we're giving all this gray area or delay or space for him to finally sit or to go to place, right, or to lay down, it will start to seep into the recall. Okay, so everything has to be quick and sharp. Otherwise, if everything is slow and you're like, well, we just need the recall to be fast. No, like everything has to be fast, right? Otherwise, you're going to create delay, and then one day if we call him and he's like, do I really have to though? That's where we have a problem.
Gotcha.
Okay, so that response was good. All of this was good. As I mentioned earlier, when we tapped, we want to see him go there very easily and quickly. That was a perfect example. Okay, so what we're teaching here is what we call the send. Getting Russ to go from your side to the object. Okay, we started close, we started at the foot. So most trainers and people, when they teach place, will teach it by walking the dog there. Okay, and it ends up becoming a part of the command. Where like they're always walking the dog there. And I want to be able to be like across the room and say, place. And the dog just goes. So they recognize the object. So instead, I just start here. Put the pressure on first. Because some dogs will actually, when they feel the pressure, will just jump on. Okay, so I'm like, are you one of those dogs? If you're not, no problem. So then we apply the pressure of the leash if he needs it to get him to go there. And eventually we kept repeating this, that he started getting it on the tap, right? Now he did have some familiarity because of what they did the other day. But then we started to put him under a bit of pressure, and then what happened?
He started like flight.
Yeah, he started going flight, right?
Yeah.
So then we had to work him through like, no bud, like you have to do this, right? And then things started getting a little bit more sharper. Because he was like, okay, well that's not an option. Right, mom's not an option. Guess I'll just do it, right? So
eventually he'll be able to do it without the collar, just after like, tons of practice.
Right, and in the home, at some point, depending on what's going on, like the collar goes away a lot of times because there's nothing really going on within the home, right? But if you're gonna have guests come over, you might find you'll need it for like the first 15 minutes, and then once because that's when all the stimuli happening, and then once all that's said and done, it's like, okay, we can take it off because he's fine with it after that, right? It's usually just that first entrance and that first kind of 10 to 15 minutes for a lot of dogs that people find they need the collar because there's so much outside stuff going on. Then once the dog settles, they just take it off. So here we have 2 components with place. There's the send, and then there's the don't move. Okay, what we just did now is the send. What we're doing now is the don't move, right? So when you sat down, a lot of dogs would have tried to go towards you. Like, oh, what are you doing? Because when we sit down or lower ourselves, that tends to be inviting for dogs. Here he did it. He just sat still, right? So that's good. So with this command, when we say place, we don't say stay, right? At no point did you say stay. The way we create the implied stay is allowing Russ to make the mistake if he's going to, or think about it, and correct them as it's going to happen. Okay. So earlier you sent him on, and then he like right away turned off, or went to go off, right? And you started tapping, and he just turned around and hopped back on again. That was him learning to stay, because he goes, okay, I went there, pressure disappeared, but then when I try to sneak off, pressure kicked back in again.
So I don't need stay.
Correct. It's implied.
Got it.
So sit, down, and place all have implied stays. Technically, all my commands do. Heel, walk with me, stay with me. Place, go here, don't move, right? Sit, same thing, put your butt down, don't move, down, lay down, don't move. And then same thing for recall, come to me, and then don't leave me until I give you permission. So there's technically some kind of stay component implied. And the way we create that implied stay is by correcting him whenever he breaks the command prematurely. Okay, so if he tries to sneak off, or even like if you see him doing this, like he's thinking about it, and you know what it means, and you tap him, that's technically telling him, nope, don't think about it, you have to stay put. Okay? So here, we wouldn't want to say no, we wouldn't want to say stop, or stay as a warning, we simply just correct them. And this is one of the biggest mistakes that trainers and people make, is if they send their dog to place, and the dog tries to sneak off, they'll say no, place, and they send the dog back. But all it does is resets the command. Okay? So if you repeat a command, even if it's the same command, you're simply resetting. Okay? As opposed to teaching the dog don't move. By allowing him to make the mistake or attempt of trying to come off prematurely and then correcting him, that's how you're teaching the don't move. Okay? So everybody repeats, place. 5 minutes later, the dog's trying to sneak off, no place, dog goes back on again. But the dog's going back on, which is what place means, right? Go here, don't move. But nothing is saying, stay there. Okay? So when we do this, I think yesterday I saw Russ do this for like a couple of hours.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because I was working in, it got busier, so I've been on the floor as an extra pair of eyes. And I saw him, because he was on the desk, and he was like right there to me. You could literally go home right now and do 2 hours. Okay? He's just going to make mistakes. So when we start with this component of don't move, we always start nearby. So if I'm sitting on the couch playing FIFA, got Russ, boom, right here. And I can step on the leash and have the remote, whatever, and then you're doing your thing. And then if you see him prematurely try to get off, you don't have to say anything, just tap on the button and go back to doing your thing. Right?
That's amazing.
So
you just use like a bed or...
Yeah, because sometimes we want him to stay, but he'll hear noises and start to run. I'll be like, Russ! And he'll look at me and come back. But it's like every 5 seconds I gotta keep saying that.
Yes. So here, what you're doing is he's going to be preoccupied by this, right? So, and I do this whenever you're not going to do anything. You're going to sit there and watch TV, play video games, eat dinner or lunch, read a book, do some computer work. Anytime that you're going to be stationary for a bit, you can use that time to train Russ. Okay, so you just train as you go about your life.
So we can put this on and do this and take place.
You just have to do it during our work day or whatever.
Yep. So like, let's say you got a call or something, like Russ will find reasons to bark or something. Technically, so if he's hearing a noise and he barks at the noise, you can correct for that. But if he's really kind of under command to the sense where he's like really like in his head, it'll override that stuff potentially.
So even if like the doorbell rings, hopefully he won't move.
Yeah. Now that's also something that can be worked on as well. Okay. So here we always start next to us because I know he's going to make mistakes. Okay. So it's very easy to correct if you're stepping on the leash and then you're limiting mobility and then you're just tapping until he self-corrects. So that's what we did yesterday. So we have columns here, and then next to the bed, next to the columns we have the dog beds, and around the columns we have the tethers or the leashes that click to the dogs. So we can literally train a dog, put him on the tether, clip him in place, and grab another dog and train him on the floor. And I can be 50 feet away and have the remote on, and I see him trying to sneak off, and I can correct him from 50 feet away. But where are they going to go? They're tethered, right? So they have enough space to get off, but not enough space to like actually get away. They have to go back on again. So then I can continue to do my thing and I'm able to correct the dog from 50 feet away. So for the average dog owner, I just tell them start with the dog next to you, step on the leash or hold in your hand, whatever you're gonna do, and just remember not to say anything. And the moment you see him trying to sneak off, you give a tap. And what we should see is what we saw earlier. He goes back on. The area goes, oh, okay. Like I don't want to step off of this because it's like hot lava, right? Floor lights up when I get off without permission. And then when you say break, he can be free, okay? Now,
so you can even do it for like an hour or two at a time?
As long as you want.
Okay.
So, when we do our boarding trains, because they pretty much train all day, we do a lot of duration work. And duration is like the easiest thing to do, but like the one thing that people tend to blow off. Because it is so easy. You know, it's like, oh, you make a train the dog when I was just watching TV? Sure, do it anytime. They forget about it. And they never do it. Right? And then like fast forward a few months, they're like, oh, let's go to the restaurant. Oh, Jesse taught me plays. Because it was so easy, but it's not as easy when you got a waiter and and food and dogs and conversation and alcohol involved, right?
Yeah.
Is we want to get all this done inside the home first, so that come spring, summer, things open up and go back and eat out or whatever.
Yeah.
You've already done it for so long, right?
Yeah, that would be awesome, to like go have drinks outside and he just sits there.
Yeah. And what's great about this plant is it's lenient. Because he can sit, stand, and lay down. Like, so if somebody came over and like, hey, you're so cute. They petted him, and he got up. He wouldn't be breaking the command as long as he stays within the space, right? Now, if you downed him, which would be the formal lay down, right? If he stood up, that would have to be corrected. Or if he was in a sit and he laid down and stood up, he'd have to be corrected. Because that is not a sit, right? So this is easier. So this is what I always tell people to do when they go to a restaurant. I go, use this, because you want to go and enjoy yourself, have a meal, blah, 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 blah. The last thing you want to worry about is what strict position is your dog in, right? I just offer this. It's a lot easier for the people, okay? So, and it's easy to do inside the home as well. And place can be anything. It can be a towel, it can be a blanket, it can be a kitchen mat, it can be a dog bed, it can be an ottoman. I had somebody use an area rug once. It was a really large area rug. And like, could that be placed? I'm like, absolutely. It's just a really big place. Like, his dog can literally do laps, right? I was like, but he just kind of sets off of the area rug, right? So it just has to have something that has a perimeter. You can't point to the corner and say rest place, because where does it end, right? He's got those two walls, but outside of that, where does it end? Coming this way, okay?
So if you're at a restaurant, how do you do place?
People bring towels a lot of times.
Oh, bring a towel.
Yeah, so they'll have like a towel in their car, and they'll just plop it down in place, you know, unless it's like a small dog, they just do like a little doggy bed.
Yeah.
But that's the most common one, is like a towel. And you can have multiple, like you can have like a dog bed in the living room, and you can have like a blanket in like the dining room or whatever, and something different in the bedroom. And he will direct to the place within the context. So if you're in the living room, he's going to opt for that one. I doubt that he'd go for the one like in the dining room. Right? So, or you can have one that you just move around, and he'll learn to recognize the object. So even though it's moving all over the place in different places, he just goes, every time you're placed, that's the thing I go to.
Yeah.
Okay? Questions about that?
No, yeah, we could just use, we have a bed upstairs and downstairs in our house, so.
Keeping him still for a bit.
Yeah, it keeps him. He does stay. Like he'll stay in one area. We'll bring the dog bed out. He has like a little dog bed. We'll bring it out in the living room when we're watching, and he'll stay there. But then he hears something, and it's just like you gotta keep calling him. And you gotta, hey, food, Russ. Oh, that's why I get the bully stick out, because it like keeps him in place. But he eats it and he's off to the races again.
Yeah, and you have to think of it this way too, right? So positive reinforcement, right, is for things you want to see again. Okay, so he could also have learned this pattern. But if I bark at this time for long enough, I get a bully stick. And if I run off and I do it again, I get a second one.
Yeah, because the minute he gets the stick, he's jumps on, he's quiet and he's eating it and he's happy.
Yeah. But he's acting wild typically, like before that.
Yeah. So what we're doing is we can potentially create a pattern, right? So whenever you give Russ something, whether it's treats or a bully stick or what have you, I want you to think, what am I telling Russ to do again when I give this to him? Right? And if it's just been 30 minutes of chaos, you're telling him, give me another 30 minutes of chaos.
I never thought about it like that.
What I would do is instead, is you send him here. Let's say he's chill for 30 minutes and he's being good. Give it to him then. Right? You can absolutely pair, positive reinforcement is a great tool. Okay? The only reason I don't rely on it is because it does not create reliable obedience. Okay, I know food or no food, with this approach, I can get an off-leash trained dog, for a fact. Positive reinforcement is just an added tool, right? But you guys are dog trainers, you want something that's going to be effective and going to work even in the real world, right? But for like because are you guys doing 12?
9.
You're doing 9?
Yeah.
So like towards the end, because right now we're teaching everything from the beginning, right? But once like we get towards probably like the 6th or 7th class, I may have you start pairing in some food stuff, because we're going to be asking for more, right? We're doing more advanced stuff. But also by that point, you've done enough of this where this is pretty easy and it's simple, because we're not going to use the food to bribe him or lure him. It's just place. He goes, piece of food.
Yeah.
Like that's it, right? We're not relying on it to do anything special. It's just there as like, good job, right? Like the payment. But here we're making him work first, okay? And that's a maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see how he's doing. But whenever you give him anything, man, why not just make him work for it first, right? As opposed to as a means of like, shut up for a little bit.
Yeah, I've been doing it backwards. It's the only thing that's been, I guess it hasn't been working. It works in pockets of time. Then the food's gone. So
Then he goes back to his
Then we have to find another bully.
So you probably don't like that dog trainer, Zach.
Oh my God.
He's
Zach
only,
George?
Yeah, he's only
With the frog eyes?
Yeah. None of his stuff works. He's that guy I used to watch the videos because he had all these puppy videos. But I was like, none of this stuff works.
Well, the other thing is, his energy is over the top. That's not.
They're very excited.
He's like, you gotta be greater than the environment. And I'm like, bro, like, no one's gonna do that just to walk their dog.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, like, and then he's like sweating profusely. And I'm
And he has like a border collie. It's a really smart dog, but it's like,
funny
still
because
wild.
he gets a lot of flack for that border collie.
Oh, really?
Inertia. Because the dog doesn't listen to him.
No, it doesn't.
No.
I'm like, man, you've been working
I've
with
watched
him for
that
a
guy,
year.
right?
Yeah, I think I've shown you a couple
Yeah, I think I've
videos.
seen that guy.
But I was like,
he is
working with
very
this guy for a year.
energetic. You're saying that's too much, right?
That's it. Oh yeah. I mean, for the average person.
Yeah, he's very energetic.
I'm sure that there's people like that he would vibe with, like, and that's cool if that's your style, great. But most people, like, you're not the first person to say that. One, it doesn't work, right? Because it's positive only. And there's one video where the dog, he walks out. Literally, they would walk out and then turn, and there was a tree the dog would lunge and bark at. And I watched the video, and he's going back and forth doing all this crazy stuff, right? And then he comes back, he's like, it might take you a couple of years, but you
Yeah, he
can
has
do it.
said that. I was like, I don't have years.
I'm like, bro, that is literally a 30-second problem. You know, literally. So,
We don't have years.
Yeah, there was one where he like took his dog to the park or something, and his dog like jetted off at him. But I was like, your dog's over a year old, and this is all you do.
Yeah.
Like, he's a full-time dog trainer. I was
Yeah,
like, I wouldn't think the dog would run away.
he's got a huge following.
Yeah.
You know, because it makes people feel good to think that they could achieve something using only food and positivity. You know, but it's just not realistic.
Yeah.
So, and again, not opposed to it. It is a great tool in the toolbox, you know, but it has to, it's coming in as an added reinforcer. Like,
So there are times where now we've been using this, but there are times when we used to call Russ to come in from the backyard and give him food. Is that the time you would do?
Yeah, because he did something and you want him to do it again. Right? Like, hey, you're in the yard and I call you, Russ, and you come, do that again. Right? Yes. But it also applies to other things, right? So if he's like jumping and barking at you and you're like, all right, Russ, here's a bully stick. You just told him, jump and bark at me again.
Yeah, because I think I've done that where people have been over and he gets crazy. The only thing that shuts him up, I think, at that point, I feel like, is like, oh, let me grab a treat, and he eats it. And then he kind of comes back begging for the treat again.
But now we'll have
It was the
plates,
only
so.
thing that was stopping me, but I did this.
Yeah.
Yes. So, growing up, if my mom had her friends over and I was over there, mom, right? I would just get disciplined. She wasn't like, here's a brownie.
Go in the other room.
Yeah, right? And then come back, mom,
Yeah.
as hell, maybe I get another brownie.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's
And
we
some
all
people
learn
raise
the
their
same
kids
way.
like that.
So, and you're not being mean, okay?
Yeah.
Dogs thrive on structure. All animals want structure. Humans have structure. That's why we have the government, right? And that's why in the government it's broken up. There's like, the president, the vice president, and it just comes down, right? So, same thing in the dog world, right? They have to have structure, but it has to be you guys. You're the parents, he's the fur dog, or he's the fur son. And I tell everybody, you can have whatever rules you want. I don't care as long as they're not against the dog. So like I had a lady who had like some little foo-foo white Maltese dog, right? And she's like, I need you to train my dog to not sniff dog butts. And I said, why? She's like, yeah, she's like, it's gross, I don't like it. And I'm like, I'm not gonna do that because that's a dog.
It's like
That's
pushing
what dogs
hands.
do. I'm like, if you don't like that, get a goldfish. Like, and I literally say this to people because just the line, you know, like it's a dog, you have to respect it's a dog, right? Because if they do this, or that's how they socialize, that is a social cue. Your dog is social, keep them social. But things like, you know, hey, don't bark, you know, blah, 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 right? You can have those rules, it's perfectly fine, you're not being inhumane or anything like that. Because it's also unhealthy for him to be triggering so often, because those are stress triggers, right? Oh, it's that part, right? Suspicion is a stress response. So you're keeping your dog pure. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So by putting these rules, you're saying like, look, but don't do any of this stuff. So then we can get.
So he's
like sleeping.
He has high cortisol levels.
Yeah. And a bit of the shaking's gone, right? There's a little bit of like heavy breathing, and now he's starting to like chill. But it took him a bit because he was sitting for like 10 minutes.
Yeah. He was sitting for the
and that sitting was him uncomfortable. But finally the brain kind of registers like, okay, I don't need to be this stressed anymore. I can relax. Okay. So, and then you also want to think about when you add in energy. So like right now, if you went to praise him to tell him good boy, like I'm like, good job, but yeah, that was amazing. You sat still for so long, right? Because you're trying to create this. Right? If I came up like good, like it'd be just like a very passive, just attaboy, right? Because your voice and your touch is energy, right? So then that's the other thing that people do is when their dog does a really good job with something, they like throw in all this energy. I'm like, you're part of the reason why your dog's so hopped up.
Yeah, it's probably my phone.
So and I think we talked about the combination.
I get a little wild. I'm like, let's see.
And I am fine with that, right? But you also want to just think time and place, right? So like my pit, I can rile her up and shut her down like that. Okay? And most people can rile up, but not bring them down.
I can't do that.
Right?
I think it's the bringing him down that's
yeah, I don't know if I just can't bring him down. I don't know how to do that, but now I do.
You have that, right? And there's another thing you can do, is let's say you roughhouse with them. I have no problem with roughhousing or whatever, right? Just make sure, just understand that what you allow your dog to do with you, he may apply to others. Okay? So like let's say you have a friend with like a child comes over and they try to play with them and he's used to roughhousing with you, he might carry that over to the child. Right? So that's the only thing you have to think about. Otherwise, I don't care how you play with your dog. Is if I play with him for like 10 minutes and I go, enough, right? But that's your cue. And he's like, no, I want more, Dad, give me more. Balk. Okay? Or tap. Because you initiated it, and then you might, if your word is enough, that means you're done. And he's like, but I want more. Then you can correct it because you gave a cue.
Got it.
So eventually he would learn that cue. And he's like, oh crap, when you say this word, that means we're done. So I keep going.
So you say stop.
I do say that. So I will get pretty like on the ground with Russ and we'll be crazy. Then I'll sit and then she'll get mad and I'll say stop. And then Russ will just like sit down next to me and just stop.
Most of the time.
Like most of the time he's done that. That's the one thing I'm saying he does really well. But that's about it.
So then, but then you would just fine tune it then.
Yeah.
Right? So it sounds like you're like maybe 70% there.
Yeah.
That last 30%, you have to follow through with the correction. Because people are concerned, they're like, well, Jesse, am I going to like scare my dog to not play with me? And I go, no. Because there is a fair cue. It's not like you're like playing, whack. That would be unfair.
Yeah.
Right? There has to be communication.
So yeah, you've given the command, and then if he still tries to go in, then.
Right. Because that's what dogs would do, right? They would be playing, and then finally one dog goes, I have had enough, and they'll walk out of the group. And if Russ were to continue to pursue, them walking out the group is saying, I'm done. So if he pursues, he's like, boom.
So he might get bit or,
Or nipped at, correct. And we see that here. Like if we see dogs pull out of the group and we watch them, like we know like you're done. We pull them out. So we don't see that escalation. Or we might see a dog like just start to curl the lip, because they've been in there for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, and they're like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Just pull them out. As opposed to leaving them there and then they get stressed out because they can't get away from the situation.
Yeah.
And then they become defensive.
Got it.
And then I have a question. This is not have to do with this right now, but we went to the dog park like a couple months ago, and I remember Russ. He gets along with everybody, but there was one dog in particular that like. Remember he started getting
that
barky?
boxer?
Yeah, he started getting really barky as if like he didn't like this dog's energy.
Yeah, so
But
this
the
dog
didn't
came
do
in and was
anything.
like overexcited, and the dog was like all wild, and then Russ kept barking at his dog, and then the owner was coming after us, like, oh my god, like, your dog, like, it keeps coming after my dog. And I'm like, well, I didn't want to like say it to her, but like, but your dog's acting like so crazy and excited, so we just like took him.
But I guess my question is Russ? is a dog seeing another dog's energy is like, you're too much, I don't like you, so I'm just barking at you, like.
So Russ maybe didn't like his energy.
I'd have to see it, like, to really give you a clear, yes or no.
Like, they weren't fighting, it's just like, I think the dog was being a little energetic.
What could happen is, let's say, the way I would consider that for us is he didn't potentially like that energy, but he wasn't confident enough to, like, go to a bite. He was just frustrated. Like, the barking is frustration, like, stop the energy because they can't bite you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, if it's a dog he's more comfortable with, that he plays with, and you see him like go for a nip, it's because he's more comfortable with that dog. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
But there's some dogs that just don't care. So it's actually like people. So, it was an ex-girlfriend. People would piss her off, and she wouldn't say anything. But if I pissed her off,
She would correct
she
you.
said something. But she was comfortable with me.
Yeah.
Right? But she wasn't comfortable saying that to another person, right? But there's also people who just have no problem just like, nope. And just establish it. They'll speak their mind.
Got it.
Same thing for us here, right?
Yeah.
So there's some dogs that will just speak their mind, boom, nip and bite. And then in that moment, the way I perceive it is that he was frustrated because he didn't like the dog's energy, but wasn't comfortable or confident enough to follow through with like a contact bite.
Yeah.
Okay? Which does not make him aggressive, by the way, right? And that owner is like the type of owner that shouldn't have a dog. Oh, your dog, blah, blah, blah. Like, right, like, and he's like, me, I'd be like, oh, it's my dog's energy, right? And that's not just because I'm a dog trainer. There's people that are like, oh, you know, yeah, my dog, blah, 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 right? They can see it, they can read it, right? But then
she was one of those owners like, oh, the other dogs like you here. This dog's just, this dog doesn't like you. I'm like, all right, you're going to be one of those like
yes, exactly. So, obviously, everyone, you're going to come across him or whatever.
Yeah.
But, he's not a problem dog or whatever.
He plays well with like all the
I was just wondering, like, if there was no negative, there's nothing.
I told you, I just thought the dog was just too, like, it's all bouncy.
To me, like, the dogs didn't do anything to each other, but yet they just.
It was a different energy than the dogs.
I was wondering.
Well, think of it this way.
Like, if somebody comes walks in the street to me,
But just think about if a crazy, like, homeless person is, like, who maybe has mental problems, is yelling things, you probably might walk to the other side of the street.
Wouldn't I just continue walking?
Yeah, because you're a human.
Yeah.
Oh.
You're not like so you're a human that knows that they're protected by laws, and you can call 911. Dogs do not. Dogs will correct and handle each other. Whereas here, it would be, like, if I'm at the store and I see someone's kid acting up, in my head, I'm like, man, somebody's gonna spank that kid.
Yeah.
But I can't go spank that kid.
Yeah.
Right? I'll be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm thinking it. Right? In the dog world, they spank that kid. They just bite him.
Yeah, so like we were living with my parents for a while while our house was being built, and my mom has like a big standard poodle, and he's a little more alpha, but he would correct Russ like all the time, like, because Russ would, want him to roughhouse and play with him, like he didn't like bite him hard or anything, but he would bite him a couple times.
If Russ got on the line, he would give him a little bit of a.
Yeah, he'd give him a correction, or he'd growl at him if he like, this is my bully stick dude, like,
Yeah, and that's
get out of my
normal.
space.
That's normal and healthy.
Yeah.
People think of it as aggressive. And I'm like, no, because there's a very clear context. And an aggressive dog is super rare. And they resort to aggression for everything. So it's like someone with anger management skills or problems, right? Is the tiniest thing, they go to 10. Right? Like, you got some anger issues, right? But I think we can agree that everybody in the world is capable of becoming angry, right? It just takes most people much more to get them to that degree. Right, same thing for dogs. There's some dogs that just go to the whole, like, I'm gonna bite you, and I'm gonna bite you good for like every tiny little thing, right? That's a problem. That's a dog with issues.
Yeah.
What you described
He deserved it most of the time.
in that dog park, whatever setting, makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So, questions about any of this stuff so far?
No, we can definitely work
I
on
want
this.
to try. This is good. And how long does somebody stay like this? Like, if you put Russ for 2 hours, he's not gonna. He can. How long is too long, essentially?
There's no real limit. I wouldn't keep them there over 2 days. But like when we have a board and train, you do about 6 to 8 hours in total for the day of duration work.
Oh wow.
Split up into 2-hour segments. Okay. There was one dog in particular that we used to do like 4 to 6 hours, like almost like in a row, because they had a newborn, and when the child was crawling, the dog would growl at the newborn. So we really long times with that dog because I knew that the owner needed to not worry about the dog, right? You go here and you don't move, all I have to worry about is my child, right? As opposed to, oh, I don't have control over you and I don't have control over you, right? So you can go as long as you like. If you're gonna do longer than 2 hours, you do just have to rotate that collar because if left for unrotated for a long period of time, you can build a pressure source.
Got it.
Okay, it's not from the stem, it's just from 2 probes poking in the neck for a long time. Okay. Otherwise,
so stick with around 2 hours. Maybe at a time.
yeah, think of what's applicable to you, right? If it's, if the longest you think you'll need to do in real life, like at a brunch setting, is an hour and a half, then what I suggest is 2 to 2.5 hours because you're overcompensating because the restaurant setting would obviously be more distracting. Be outside, potentially sense other dogs, food, people walking up, all that stuff. So by going longer in the home, you're making it more difficult that way to compensate for the distractions you don't have that wouldn't be present at the restaurant, whatever. Okay? Excellent. So,
and then we should practice the walk.
Oh yeah. So when you go home, it's not going to just transfer to his dog bed. You'll have to teach him like we did this.
Okay.
If you each did 1 session a day, 3 to 5 minutes of this exercise, you're fine. Duration you can do whenever you want, however you want. Once you see Russ, when you say place, just go in there. And you're like, man, this is pretty consistent. Like he knows it. You don't have to do the sessions anymore. You just go to the application. Right? Place, don't move for 2 hours. Okay?
And once he knows the command, do you have to put on the collar anymore? Or can he
you're going to need it for a period of time because you're going to have to reinforce and correct things.
Yeah.
This is also something that you could use with guests and all that, right? To keep them out of their way.
Yeah.
So think of it as once you get them further along, you'll only probably need the collar is if there's going to be another person. Like if you're using this as a preventative measure of him charging the door, you'll probably need the collar because he's going to have to deal with the knock.
Right.
Or the sound or whatever, he's going to be suspicious. You have to kind of cut that out, but then after like 15 minutes, he could be completely fine.
Got it.
Okay, so it's kind of play it by ear. The other thing is you also have other means of correcting him down the line if he does break position. So, okay.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
This is perfect.
We'll do this. We'll feed him less and.
Yes, feed him less.
Thank you for telling me that
Yeah.
because
Yeah, the other day I saw him on the treadmill. I'm like, dude, you're a little walking sausage here.
Rusty, you're going on a diet.
you gotta send you on a diet now.
Did you?